pass this hunk of whip salt around so you can see it. When you get it, look up at a light and see the square bubbles. Okay, crystallographically trapped 270 million year old seawater, and we have extracted DNA and other biologicals from it. The DNA is viable, so this is Permian Park, kind of neat stuff. This is halophilic bacteria, no big deal, but it's a testament to how good this rock is in isolating anything in it from the environment. So, but also I'll set that around. In fact, I'll set it around now. Jim, you want to take it?
All righty.
But hold it up to the light and see the little crystallographically trapped 270 million year old seawater. All right, so with that in mind, there are 4 categories of nuclear waste in the United States, different than Europe and a lot of the other bit of the world because we have so much bomb waste. This is spent nuclear fuel, you all recognize that, that's what we worry about most. There's the Hanford tank waste, the high-level waste. So high-level waste is only bomb waste, all right? It only comes from the first 2 processing steps in making a bomb. So now we happen to have a lot of that. What's interesting is that most of that is no longer high level. Then we have transuranic waste, the other type of bomb waste. It's stuff that comes from the following 3 process steps during the making of a bomb. So it's just where it comes from, not what it is. Then we have a lot of low-level waste, which is mainly dirt and other junk, but does not require deep geologic disposal. So the first 3, spent nuclear fuel, high-level waste, and transuranic waste, require deep geologic disposal by law. Right? You must use deep geologic disposal. And so when you talk about high-level waste and true waste, again, they're both bomb waste. So when you have a weapons reactor, okay, not a power reactor, because it won't work with a power reactor, a weapons reactor, like we had up at Hanford, like Russia had, and a few others around the world, you take your spent fuel out of the reactor within 6 months. It cannot stay in the reactor more than 6 months, so you start breathing in neutron poisons like plutonium-240 and 242 that you cannot separate from 239, so your bomb will be a dud. And you do not want your bomb to be a dud. If you ever try to use a nuclear weapon and it's a dud, bad. So anyway, yeah, it's good to know. So anyway, so when you take it out of the weapons reactor within 6 months, and you subject it to this processing in order to remove the plutonium and recover and purify uranium as well, this is it. So the first 2 steps, this is where the high-level waste goes into those tanks. Say there's 177 single-shell tanks in Hanford. Most of them are high-level waste, some are true waste. So the next 3 steps, it goes into the transuranic waste tanks. There's about 20 of these and about 155 of those, okay? Now the funny thing that's happened in the last 50 years is that the high-level waste is no longer high level. We took out about half of the cesium and strontium from those tanks in the 80s, and the others have been through 1 to 2 decay lives. So there is nothing in the high-level waste tanks that's high level anymore at Hanford. None, not a drop. Nothing exceeds 1 curie per liter. And the greater than class C cutoff is 4 curie per liter for cesium-137 and 7 curie per liter for strontium-90. It's sufficient products that make everything hot. Okay. So, that being said, just about the day I was born, 1957, National Academy of Sciences came out with a very nice report that the Atomic Energy Commission had asked them. They said, you know, shipping ports just starting up. We made a lot of this bomb waste. We got a lot of this junk. It's weird. Not much of it, but it's weird. What should we do with it? National Academy of Sciences said, put it in salt, bedded salt. The nice thing about salt is that it creeps closed. It's a hard rock, I'm sorry, it's a soft rock. But if I threw that at your head, it would hurt, okay? But it's a soft rock geologically. So under pressure, under 150 bar pressure of a half-mile depth, it will creep closed. So that unit will not sustain an opening. A fracture, a room, when you cut a room into it, will not sustain an opening. Period. It will collapse. It's nature's great trash compactor. It's kind of funny. And it works well. And so the mining industry, which started in Carlsbad with German miners in the 1880s, mining for potassium chloride, they knew exactly how to cut whip. In fact, DOE came, they'd be kicked out of places, you know, as usual, and Carlsbad comes up, wait, we'll take it. And DOE said, what? And they said, oh yeah, we know how to do this, piece of cake. And it was a piece of cake. It is a piece of cake from a mining perspective. So it takes 1 billion years for water to move an inch in this rock. And that's an upper limit. Those are the kind of measurements I do. But then things changed, okay? Things changed in the 70s. EPA was formed. AEC established these 4 categories for nuclear waste. And then we did this weird thing. You know, again, we're not going to reprocess or anything. And so someone had the ear of Jim Schlesinger, who was the first Secretary of Energy. He's a great economist. He wasn't a scientist, but he was a great economist. And they said, you know, we might change our minds. We want to get this back out in 50 years if we change our minds. Well, of course, you just stop someone on the street and you say, we're going to get this back out. We're going to spend billions of dollars putting it half mile below the earth in something that's going to last 1 million years or so or more, but we might change our minds and get it back out. So when they say, are you nuts? You know, don't throw it away. So that's the big issue. But we decided, yeah, we're going to throw it away, then we want to get it back out. So it's kind of like a revolving door in a department store, so which is incompatible with permanent geologic disposal. So salt's out. The salt is permanent. Creeps close relatively fast. So well, we got to go to a hard rock, because a hard rock will stay open for 50 years. So that's why we went to a hard rock. Not a good idea. However, TRU waste is kind of a weird thing that nobody even knew what it was about, and it silently kept on and went into the salt, as it should be. Since then, a lot has happened. Again, most high-level waste is not high-level waste, which is interesting. So that begs the question, why are we vitrifying it if it is not high-level waste?
Make it expensive.
Make it expensive, right. It's a great jobs program. Excellent jobs program, I love it. But the state requires, they decided glass was best because France does glass. And of course, we must echo France, even though it's not warranted. Okay, so 1957 onward to the 70s, now there were 17 candidate sites for a high-level spent nuclear fuel repository. And there were supposed to be 2 sites, 2 repositories, because of course, when you split the risk goes down, right? This is the best statisticians in Congress came up with that. So.
Was that political? Like they thought maybe they could get one? Like,
yes, right. So they said, okay, the east, we're going to do the east and north, or the south and west. So we'll split them and everyone will be happy. All right, well, there's not enough waste to justify 2 repositories anyway. And of course, when you split it and you put it in the wrong rock, your risk goes up quite a bit. So then, by 1982, the Nuclear Waste Policy Act came into being, and they had narrowed the sites to 3, right? And one was Yakima, Nevada, you all recognize that, Hanford, Washington, where I'm at, and Deaf Smith County, Texas. Okay, who was Speaker of the House in 1987?
Jeff Smith.
Jim Wright from Texas. Well, Texas was out. Who was House Majority Leader?
Tom Foley.
Tom Foley. I like him in general, but yeah, from Hanford, Washington. So there was this new junior just got elected named Harry Reid. And they said, Harry, it's yours. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. That was the decision, period. Right? Now they kind of missed the point because Harry Reid was a boxer. Did you know that? He was a professional boxer. And then he headed the Nevada Gaming Commission and drove out the mobs. So he was not a lightweight. he was tough. And of course he became majority lead, ironically. And he basically told Obama, if you want my help in the Senate, you're going to kill Yucca Mountain. And that's okay, because Yucca Mountain's a lousy place. And I'll get into why that's a place. So 2009, Yucca Mountain was halted. He created the Blue Ribbon Commission to take its place. Great commission. Don't want to go into that in detail, but if anyone does later, let me know. To develop a new strategy.
Now, $1 billion later.
Yeah. Now, never say, because it's not true, never say that we wasted $12 billion on Yucca Mountain, because only 12 actually. So $12 billion. No, because 10 billion of that got information that we'll use anywhere. Corrosion studies, transportation, I mean, all of it is transferable except about 2 billion over 30 years, which is, that's not even one B-1 bomber, so that's nothing to get excited about. Okay, so now, Yucca Mountain, okay, is a highly fractured, oxidizing, variably saturated dual porosity hydrologic system that sits on the edge of the Las Vegas shear zone. Now, which of those words inspires confidence? Okay? It's not. It's a terrible rock. It's a horrible rock. In fact, the rock does nothing for you. There's absolutely nothing for you. And the whole point of deep geologic disposal is to pick a rock that does everything for you. All you have to do is meet Department of Transportation requirements to get it there. Right? This doesn't do that. So we had to come up with 7 engineered barriers to re-engineer around the fact that we picked the wrong rock. Right? And that was one of I'm a barrier guy. Okay? Really proud of the work we did. Wonderful stuff. Great science. Wrong rock. So, unknown to most, the Transuranic bomb waste continued on into the salt as planned. All right? And WIP has been a brilliant success. If you want to talk more later about the little leak they had, it wasn't really a leak. No one was contaminated. The equivalent of 100 smoke detectors was released. Okay. Into a community that has 10,000 smoke detectors, so not a big deal. Now, WIP it was built and designed for everything. Remember that, it was built and designed for everything. It was only permitted later for transuranic waste. So it was just a political, bureaucratic decision that said only defense-related transuranic waste could go there. Now, 1992, 16 square miles was set aside by the Land Withdrawal Act, and when WIP is done, it'll be maybe 1 or 2 square miles. Plenty of room for everything else. Now, this is what it looks like. There are 4 shafts into the underground. Air intake, air exit, salt handling, and waste handling. Then there are horizontal corridors called drifts. This is mining technology. And each one off of these is a panel, and each panel has 7 rooms. And each room is a football field in length. Right? It's only 30 feet wide and 13 feet high to accommodate the packages. Right now we are almost full. The original mission of WIP is almost done. It is 10 years ahead of schedule and $1 billion under budget. Now tell me what federal program is ahead of schedule and under budget by even $1. None. Okay, because it's the right rock. The right rock. I'm a geologist. It's all about the rock, right? You choose the right rock, easy, simple, cheap. You use the wrong rock, very bad, takes forever, and you never have enough money. Now, why is this rock there? Well, that rock I'm sending around, everyone's seen it, right? Almost everyone? Okay. So, during the Permian time, the western edge of the Proto-Pacific was off the coast of Utah and Arizona. There was a bunch of fingers of the Proto-Pacific that came up into southeast New Mexico, West Texas, and because of tectonic reasons, it kept getting shut off, and then it would evaporate. And then tectonics would have it flood again, evaporate, flood, blah, 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 blah. 30 million years of depositing salt, 6,000 feet of salt, of which the top 2,000 is like that I passed around. Pure, it's wonderful. I actually make margarita salt out of it. It's actually, I did that for the BRC. General Scowcroft thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. Allison McFarlane was not pleased. So, I wasn't serious enough. If you look into the light and you see little square bubbles in there, those are fluid inclusions, crystallographically trapped 270 million year old seawater, and from that we have isolated DNA. It's viable. Bacterial husks, cellulosics from degraded cell walls, things like that. It's only halophilic bacteria, because as this thing was evaporating, it became briny, and the only thing that can live in brine are brine shrimp and halophilic bacteria. So nothing's much happened in the last 300 million years to halophilic bacteria. They're still the same. But this is a testament to how isolating this rock is, right? Now, biomolecules don't last that long, okay? Generally, they are thermolytically split or degraded because the rocks get buried deep enough so they go up above 41 degrees C. And the reason you don't want to go above 41 degrees C, if you have a fever, everyone gets really excited when you get to 105, because at 109 your DNA begins to unwind and your enzymes begin to unwind at 109 degrees Fahrenheit, so they really don't like that when you get close to that. So same thing here. So this rock was never buried deep enough to go above that temperature. Radiolytically, this is pure salt. There's no norm in it. There's no naturally occurring radioactive material. There's no uranium, thorium, or anything else in it. So there's nothing to degrade this over time, and that's why it's still there. So again, an excellent testament to the isolating powers of this rock. Because it's geologically a soft rock, no blasting, no one ever gets hurt. You just have these Marriott continuous miners with tungsten carbide fingers who just drill this out. It goes up the salt mining shafts, gets dumped outside the repository. Here's what it looks like. That is pure salt. The lighting's weird. It looks dark, but it's pure salt. And that's Wendell Wirth. You remember Wendell? The father of WIP. So this began operation in 1999, okay? But it started taking high activity waste. Now this is waste that's up to 23 curie per liter. And there is no high level waste left at Hanford over 1 curie per liter. So this is hot, okay? And the 23 curie per liter cutoff was to handle reprocessed waste, right? That's why we chose that number. And this is a 72B cask. It's just what you would haul any high-level waste or spent fuel bundle or military-grade material in. So the hot stuff gets moved around in this highly shielded transport cask down into the underground, and then gets robotically plunged into a robotically cut 14-foot deep borehole, and then it gets robotically shoved in there, and then gets plugged with a 4-foot metal wrap cement plug. It's really quite neat. And when you do that on all the walls with the hot waste, then you go back in and fill the rest of the waste with it's not low level, I mean it's transuranic waste. So it's mainly plutonium, americium, uranium, neptunium, and stuff like that. It's the actinides. And so this is what it looks like. So if I took you down there, I used to take people down there, Jim Clyburn came down there, a bunch of others, and they're standing and looking at it and go, God, this is great. Why aren't we doing this for everything? And I said, well, that's your job. So anyway, so this guy here, standing in front of the easily shielded alpha and beta, and the hot stuff is behind him, and he's standing there getting 1/10 of the dose that we're all getting here right now. 1/10 the dose, and he's standing in front of nuclear waste, including relatively high activity. And that's because, of course, it's a half-mile below the Earth, so most of the cosmic rays are shielded out. It's easy to shield this stuff. There's no norm. That's all pure salt, so there's no uranium around him. So yeah, he's getting 1/10 of the. In fact, the biggest dose he's getting is from the potato chips he ate for lunch. So again, been working for 23 years, about 150,000 cubic meters, about 700,000 55-gallon drum equivalents. All you have to do is put the waste into a container that fits in the shipping container. You have to meet Department of Transportation requirements. That's it, right? The canister doesn't have to last. Now, Yucca Mountain, the canister has to last. So we got super copper canisters that have to vitrify the waste because the rock does nothing for you, right? Now, 22 storage sites are clean. Rocky Flats is in WIP. That's just kind of funny. One minor release, and it was quite minor. And DOE freaked out, the state freaked out. Okay. We had a plan to clean it up in 3 months at $30 million, and they took 3 years and $500 million. Unnecessary. But that's okay. It's running. So here's what it looks like. EPA requires one engineered barrier. They don't believe the Earth is good enough, so they require one engineered barrier. So we came up with powdered MgO. So it absorbs plutonium, it absorbs CO2, it absorbs water. It's really great stuff. It forms a sorrel cement. So this is in powdered bags. These side bags we got rid of before we actually started to dispose of anything. But when the ceiling comes down and the walls come in, it breaks those sacks on top and it falls around it. And it's actually kind of neat. It's cheap, very cheap. So this is what happens. 10 to 15 years, and it is closing, and it's back to what it was before, well before 1,000 years, but it's amazing. So if you know anything about the properties, flow properties, diffusion coefficient, hydraulic conductivity, these are very low numbers, okay? Very hard to measure, actually, when they're this low. In fact, the diffusion coefficient is pretty much the crystalline diffusion coefficient of hydrogen. Now, it's the properties of the rock that matter. It's all about the rock. So, porosity, and it's mainly these unconnected square fluid inclusions. The pH is ideal. It's the minimum transport for plutonium and water. The EH is perfect. It's the most reducing groundwater in America, and you want it reducing because then nothing moves. Plutonium doesn't move, uranium doesn't move, technetium doesn't move, iodine doesn't move if it's reducing. Now, the thermal conductivity is about 5 times that of the tough. So you can load it up with heat a lot higher than anything else. And this annealing, this creep closure, works at least the 6th power of the temperature. So it works better the hotter the waste. Again, you cannot manufacture a rock this good. So what you're given is essentially a 200 million year design life, performance life. Okay? Now at Yucca Mountain, we had to struggle for 10,000 years. And then they raised it 100,000 years, and we can't do that. Not going to happen. But so you're just given it by this rock. 200 million years. So you don't need engineered barriers, although we have to have one by law. The waste form is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether it's glass, grout, junk, as long as Department of Transportation requirements require less than 1% free liquid. So as long as it's dry, it's good. Doesn't matter what it is. Don't need the cladding to persist. Don't need the canister to persist. No adverse temperature effects, and the fluid inclusion migration is irrelevant. Although you will hear from the Germans that it matters. It's because their salt sucks. Sorry. And it's all about the salt. Excuse me, that was not called for. So the waste disposal footprint, this is the 16 square miles set aside by the Land Withdrawal Act, and WIP is still, again, 10 years ahead of schedule, $1 billion under budget, and there's the footprint of the original mission. Now, if you want to put, say, high-level waste there, and put spent nuclear fuel in interim storage nearby, this is what your footprint is. Then if you decide to put spent nuclear fuel in there, and you are supplying 40% of our energy needs by the year 2100, this is all the space you need. Now, I should say, the 16 square miles set aside was just an arbitrary number. There's 10,000 square miles of this unit. All right? 10,000 square miles. We only need 16. So interim storage is great. The canisters work for about 160 years at least. And if something happens to the canister, you put it into a new canister. This is like not rocket science. And again, you're going to use this waste, hopefully, in something, fast reactors. You're going to recycle whatever. Curio is perfect segue for this. And then there's deep borehole. Now, you've heard of deep borehole. It took me a while to come around, but I like it. And one reason I like it is it gets all the congressional delegations really upset. Why do you think that?
Too simple. Do it in any state.
More bad, yeah.
Yes, you can do it in any state. So suddenly, New York can have it. Because if you're 3 miles, 4 or 5 kilometers into the crust, there is no mechanism to get it back out unless it goes through, plate tectonic cycling. Okay, and that's millions and millions of years. So there's no way to get this back out. So it doesn't matter where you put it in the country. As long as you avoid a magnet chamber. Okay. So every state that has nuclear waste can have its own deep borehole disposal, and they have been crying for decades that, no, it's going to leave the state. Don't worry, leave the state, go someplace else. So this got them upset. But it is brilliant. However, now the waste package matters, because if you're going to put down, you know, whole fuel assemblies, that's a tough drill for five kilometers. But it's not if it's a foot. So this is really where advanced reactor waste is perfect, because you can pick your shape of your container, right? You can put molten salt waste, you can put fast reactor waste, it doesn't matter. You can make your packages tall and thin, and then you don't spend so much drilling a 5 kilometer hole. Now, you've heard of deep isolation out of Berkeley. They put a little cute thing in here. They put a plumber's trap. Which is great. I love it. It's a plumber's trap, which is brilliant, okay? Because again, the only way out is the borehole. But of course, if you seal a borehole decently for 5 kilometers, there's no way anything will get it out. But you know, this is great. So things will never get out of that hole. We have walking drill rigs now, you know that? I should have a picture in here. We have walking drill rigs. You know, the Patterson rig. When you're finished fracking and drilling, whatever, it picks itself up and it walks to the next site. Now, how can you, I mean, I love it from science fiction, but it's horrible from an environmental standpoint, because it's too easy to get oil and gas out of the ground now. And each one of these walking drill rigs can go, you know, 18,000 feet and can have 12 stringers off a single well. It's just too easy to get fossil fuel out of the ground now. And so to say we're going to stop that without something to take its place, like nuclear, is insane. I mean, it's like putting two bowls in front of children, one's apples and one's candy, and you say, I'm going to leave the room now, but you're going to only eat the apples. Nope, it's too easy to get fossil fuel out of the ground. This is the deep boreholes test hole that they did. Worked perfectly, but notice it's tall and thin. Perfect for the cesium capsules up at Hanford, or for this. But WIP's good for everything, so that's another thing. So it doesn't matter, I don't want to spend time, you know more about this than I do. But I mean, the pebbles, great. You know, the new anneal fuel, great. It's much smaller than a traditional fuel bundle. But yeah, anything you can get to a tall and thin shape is ideal for borehole disposal. Again, you just have to satisfy Department of Transportation requirements, either in the 72B cask or in a TRU-PAC 2 or 3 cask, and you just get it down there. Doesn't matter how you get it there, as long as you meet Department of Transportation requirements. So, there's only a few possible outcomes for our nuclear waste disposal program. I hate to say it, there's only a couple of things. One, TRU continues on into WIP. WIP is permitted and licensed for transuranic waste, so all the TRU waste we have goes there. But it's only permitted for defense waste. If you start making TRU from Curia starts making TRU waste, you're gonna have to change the permit. How difficult is that? Yeah, it could be a mess. But you know, I like to say, when human law comes up against natural law, who wins? Okay. Now, otherwise, we would outlaw volcanoes and tornadoes and stuff. So defense waste, so transuranic high-level waste, if you redefine high-level waste as transuranic and low-level, as it is, we're working on that, finally get some headway, then the transuranic goes to WIP and the high-level waste goes to one of the 4 repositories in America we have for low-level waste. Commercial waste, you put it in interim storage till we get our act together. Then you either burn it in new reactors, Curio's right there, and then that waste goes into either into WIP if you expand WIP's mission, or it goes into deep borehole, or you can have a second salt repository, because we have a lot of salt. We have a lot of salt, a lot of good salt, better than the rest of the world. Don't put it in domal salt, because domes are moving. Right? Domes are diapirs. They have vertical spline fractures that leak meteor arc water into them. Any questions?
Hey, I got a question. What's holding up the WIP from taking SNF?
Oh,
The state of New Mexico, of course.
repeat the question for the internet.
The oil industry.
What is holding up WIP from expanding to take all waste like it was originally designed? It's the state of New Mexico and interests like the oil industry and things like that. That keeps, it'll destroy the oil industry. No, it has nothing to do with it. It will not interfere at all. Oil is at 10 to 18,000 feet, and WIP is at 2,000 feet. So there really is no problem. But every time we talk about expanding WIP's mission, everyone in New Mexico cries, you lied to us. It's like, no, we didn't lie to you. You changed it. We didn't. It was supposed to be everything. It was supposed to be all nuclear waste of any type was designed and built for that, and you just said, just Transuranic.
How hard would it be to get a Alberta politician to clear the whip? Like if they were, going, can you actually get someone in there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're a foreigner, so, okay. So 45 days, the usual.
You and I were a retired senior reactor operator, and I want to know what you think about subseabed disposal.
Subsea bed is the best way to do it, okay? Because you don't even have to hit it well, okay? You just go to a trench, okay, which are thousands of feet deep. There's thousands of feet of muck, highly reducing, highly soft, very impermeable to water, and you just drop your package down. We even designed it so that we could use the penetrators we developed for Vietnam. So it just goes down and it's gone forever, dragged into the mantle. It's brilliant, perfect, cheap, easy, but international waters. That's it. Just say that. It's over.
Doesn't it come up for reevaluation 2025? Yeah.
What, deep seabed? Yeah, but it's the same thing. It'll just be international waters. Oh, you'll have an Exxon Valdez guy that will run into the Philippines. Yeah. But it is the best method, without question.
What are the interests of foreign nations, or what are we doing to prevent them from doing that?
Oh, you can't, I don't know, blow them out of the water, I don't know. but not, you really can't, but they won't. See, the thing is, we have more waste than anyone else, right? Not sure what Russia does with some of theirs, but yeah, they kind of do that. No, most nations don't have enough. I mean, there's France, there's Japan, there's us, there's Russia, and there's maybe England, but all the rest don't have enough reactors to really warrant a lot of activity. So there are 14 nations that have got together to form the Arias group in Europe that only have a few reactors, and they said, okay, we're going to work on one repository for the 14 countries, and that's as close as you're going to get to that kind of thing, which is actually quite good.
One, I guess the first one that came to mind is the opposition to using WIP for spent nuclear fuel more so on a local level, like not my backyard kind of deal?
Oh, God, no. Yeah, the farther away you are from WIP, the more you hate it. So everyone around WIP loves it. I mean, because WIP has been so successful. It's, this is a mining community. Mining is dangerous. People die. No one's ever died at WIP because DOE isn't trying to make money on it, okay? So you have good air. If you're a miner, you know what that means. Yeah, 425,000 cubic feet per minute of airflow. Like, my God. In the commercial mines, you don't get anywhere near that. Sometimes the air quality is terrible. And you have to ride with the back of the ceiling right over your head. You're driving like this, whereas WIP is beautiful.
You mentioned that only as long as you're using the DOT-approved transportation, it'd be all right. I've heard in the past that that's one of the big showstoppers of a central.
It's transportation. I know. We've never had a problem with transportation. We have put this stuff over millions and millions of miles of road. Never had a problem. People don't even know what's going through usually. Yeah. So transportation isn't a problem. Okay.
From a technical standpoint.
Oh yes, piece of cake.
Perfect safety.
Yeah, perfect safety record.
Is there a way, like politically, to be stopped, like going across state lines?
Yes.
Or?
See, the thing is, the feds control RAD. I was thinking, the feds control radiological material. The states have no say in it at all. Okay? That's why the first shipment to RIP was all RAD and no RECRA. The states have control over RECRA, which is, toxic chemicals like lead and mercury and dioxin and stuff. They will not, they have to issue a permit to get on the road. So DOE is always worried about, making the states mad because they'll pull their permit. But in the end, if anyone asks, well, what about the waste? You say, piece of cake. We know what to do with it. We're already doing it with a lot of waste. We know where to put it. We know how much it costs. We're just not allowed to do it.
I have one more short one here. Just wondering if you could do briefly comment on the geology of the Oncalo facility and the Canadian sites that are.
Yeah, they're all good sites. I mean, they're deep enough in the crust, and they're in tight, granitic material. I mean, it's not as good as salt, but it doesn't have to be perfect, kind of thing. Yeah, and they're good, and there's not a lot of waste. I have to say that. So, And spent fuel is easy, because spent fuel is not leaky. We don't leak from the junk in the tanks at Hanford. Yeah, you leak a lot of crap. And they're all leaking. I'm surprised they're not all leaking. The design life of those tanks was 15 years. I mean, what were you going to do with 1 million gallons of high-level waste after 15 years? So yeah, I'm just surprised. And almost all the ones leaking are transuranic waste tanks, not the high-level waste tanks. Interesting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.